Hey warriors, this is not a transformation. This is recognition. In the next 40 minutes, you won't discover something new. You'll remember something ancient, a way of being that lives beneath the noise, beneath the performance, beneath the constant calculation of how to move through a world that taught you to second-guess your existence. Dangerous confidence isn't aggression wrapped in certainty. It isn't the boardroom voice or the stage presence. It's the quality of energy that makes people lean forward when you speak quietly. The gravitational pull of someone who has stopped fragmenting themselves for comfort. The world is full of people performing confidence, chest out, voice loud, laugh forced. But you can feel the hollowness. You can sense the effort. Real confidence requires no amplification. It exists in the pause before you speak, in the steadiness of your gaze, in the way you don't flinch when silence stretches. Right now, you might be carrying invisible weight, the weight of chronic self-monitoring, the exhaustion of translating yourself into something more palatable, the subtle violence of editing your truth before it reaches your lips. This weight doesn't announce itself dramatically. It accumulates in small surrenders. Each time you laugh at something that isn't funny, each time you nod when you want to shake your head, each time you say, "I'm sorry," when you've done nothing wrong. The cost is not always visible, but it's always felt. You feel it in how long it takes you to speak in meetings, in how you rehearse simple conversations, in how you need 3 days to recover from one difficult interaction. This video is not here to add strategies to your collection. You don't need another framework, another system, another set of rules to follow. What you need is subtraction, the removal of what was never supposed to be there, the fears that were planted, the doubts that were inherited, the performance that replaced presence. Philosopher Martin Heidegger spoke of thrownness, the idea that we're thrown into a world with pre-existing meanings, expectations, and scripts we never chose. Confidence is the work of examining what you were thrown into and deciding what to keep. The neuroscientist Antonio Damasio discovered that emotion precedes thought, that your body generates feeling states that shape your cognitive processing. This means confidence isn't just mindset work, it's nervous system work. Your body learns confidence through repeated experiences of safety, not through affirmations alone. Over the next 40 minutes, we're building something structural, not motivational thunder that fades by Tuesday, not temporary courage borrowed from someone else's words, but architecture, internal structure that holds regardless of external conditions. Each principle builds on the last. Skip nothing, rush nothing. This is precision work. And before we go any further, if this message already feels like it's speaking to you, support this channel. Like the video. Share it with someone who needs their strength back. Subscribe if you're ready to build a calmer, stronger inner world. And comment to let this message move beyond the screen. We begin now. Type this if you're done playing small. I don't bend, I rise. Number 1. Stop performing certainty you don't feel. The confidence crisis of our time isn't that people lack confidence, it's that they're pretending to have it while suffocating underneath. You've seen it. The too loud laugh, the aggressive certainty that feels brittle. The person who can't tolerate being questioned because their entire presence is a construction, not a foundation. Dangerously confident people do something radical. They admit uncertainty without losing authority. They say, "I don't know," without their voice wavering. They say, "I'm still figuring this out," without diminishing themselves. They say, "I changed my mind," without defensive explanation. This is confidence matured beyond performance. Most people were taught that confidence means never showing doubt, never revealing process, never letting anyone see the scaffolding behind the finished building, so they construct elaborate facades. They speak in absolutes. They hide confusion. They fake fluency in topics they barely understand. And the cost is enormous. When you perform certainty you don't feel, you split yourself. There's the you that speaks, and the you that watches yourself speak while panicking internally. There's the you that projects calm, and the you that's screaming underneath. This split is exhausting. It consumes massive cognitive resources. It leaves you depleted after simple interactions. The psychologist Fritz Perls described this as the difference between dog life and bullshit life, the authentic existence versus the performed one. When you live in performance mode, you're constantly managing impressions rather than experiencing reality. Researcher Brené Brown's work on vulnerability revealed something counterintuitive. People trust vulnerability more than they trust polished perfection. Not vulnerability as performance, the calculated share designed to seem relatable, but real vulnerability, the willingness to exist as incomplete. Think about the people you genuinely respect, not the people you admire from a distance, but the ones you trust deeply. Chances are they've shown you their uncertainty, their mistakes, their evolving thinking, and rather than losing your respect, they gained it. Why? Because authenticity creates connection in ways perfection never can. When someone admits they don't know, you relax. When someone shows their process, you feel invited into their humanity. When someone changes their mind based on new information, you witness intelligence, not weakness. Dangerous confidence includes intellectual humility, the capacity to hold strong positions while remaining open to new information, the ability to commit fully to a direction while acknowledging you might be wrong. This is not weakness. This is sophistication. The physicist Richard Feynman once said, "I would rather have questions that can't be answered than answers that can't be questioned." This is the mindset of dangerous confidence, curious, open, undefended. Consider how exhausting it is to maintain certainty about everything, to never admit confusion, to always have an answer, to defend every position as if your identity depends on it. This rigidity isn't strength. It's fragility disguised as conviction. Real confidence has flexibility. It bends without breaking. It absorbs new information without collapsing. It allows for error without catastrophizing. Practice this shift. When you don't know something, instead of bluffing or deflecting, say, "I don't have enough information on that yet. Let me think about it and get back to you." Notice what happens. Most people respect this more than a rushed, uncertain answer delivered with false confidence. When you're uncertain, instead of choosing a side prematurely to appear decisive, say, "I'm weighing multiple factors here. Give me time to process." This demonstrates thoughtfulness, not weakness. When you make a mistake, instead of defending or minimizing, say, "I got that wrong. Here's what I'm doing differently." This shows accountability and growth orientation. When someone presents information that contradicts your view, instead of immediately counter-arguing, say, "That's interesting. I hadn't considered that angle. Let me sit with this." This displays openness and security. Notice what happens. At first, your ego will protest. It will tell you that admission equals weakness, that uncertainty equals incompetence, that changing your mind equals failure. Ignore it. That voice is trauma speaking. It's the internalized judgment of systems that valued appearance over accuracy. It's the echo of teachers who punished questions, of parents who demanded instant answers, of peers who mocked confusion. But the people worth having in your life respond differently to honest uncertainty than your fear predicts. They lean in, they appreciate the honesty, they trust you more, not less. Your confidence should be flexible, not fragile. It should accommodate growth, not resist it. It should prioritize accuracy over ego. When you stop performing certainty, something releases. You stop using so much energy to maintain the performance. That energy returns to you. You become more present, more creative, more genuinely engaged, and paradoxically, you become more trustworthy. People sense the difference between someone who is confident and someone who is desperate not to appear uncertain. The first feels solid, the second feels hollow. This shift transforms how you move through the world. You stop avoiding conversations where you might not have all the answers. You stop pretending to understand things you don't. You stop defending positions just because you once held them. You become someone who learns in public, who grows visibly, who treats uncertainty not as threat but as invitation. Number 2. Master the language of boundaries. Confidence lives or dies at the border between you and everything else. That border is called a boundary, and most people's boundaries are so porous they're barely there. You say yes when you mean no. You accept behavior you find unacceptable. You give time you don't have. You tolerate energy you don't want. And every boundary violation teaches your nervous system that you are not safe, even from yourself. Dangerously confident people have clear boundaries, not walls, not hostility, but clear, calm, consistent limits that protect their energy, time, and peace. The therapist Nedra Glover-Tawwab writes extensively about how boundary issues aren't really about other people. They're about your relationship with yourself. When you don't honor your own limits, you teach others not to honor them either. Boundaries are not mean, they're not selfish, they're not evidence of being closed off. Boundaries are structural integrity. Think of it this way. A house without walls isn't open, it's uninhabitable. You can't rest there. You can't be safe there. You can't exist fully there. Boundaries create the container in which you can actually be present. Most people struggle with boundaries because they confuse boundaries with rejection. They think saying no to someone is saying, "I don't care about you." But that's not what's happening. You're saying, "I care about myself enough not to betray my limits." Here's what boundary mastery looks like in practice. You don't respond immediately to every text. You don't attend every event you're invited to. You don't explain why you're unavailable. You don't absorb everyone's emotional weather. You don't make yourself smaller to make others comfortable. You simply say, "That doesn't work for me." And then you stop talking. No justification, no elaborate excuse, no apologetic tone. Just a calm, clear statement of what is. At first, this will feel uncomfortable. You might feel guilty, selfish, mean. These feelings are not evidence that you're doing something wrong. They're evidence that you're breaking an old pattern. You were likely taught, implicitly or explicitly, that your needs matter less than others' comfort. That being good means being available. That love means having no limits. These teachings were false. Real relationships don't require you to dissolve yourself. They require you to exist clearly so others know how to be with you. When you have no boundaries, people don't know where you end and they begin. It creates enmeshment, not intimacy. Start practicing boundary language. Instead of, "I'm so sorry, I'm just really overwhelmed right now, I wish I could help," but say, "I'm not available for that." Instead of, "Maybe, let me see, I'll try to make it work." Say, "No, that doesn't work for me." Instead of tolerating behavior and then exploding later, say, "I need you to stop doing that. Watch what happens." Some people will respect your boundaries immediately. They'll appreciate the clarity. These are your people. Others will push back. They'll call you selfish. They'll guilt you. They'll test the boundary. This is information. People who genuinely care about you can handle your boundaries. People who only valued your usefulness cannot. Dangerous confidence is knowing the difference and letting the second group be upset. Your peace is not negotiable. Your energy is not public property. Your time is not a resource others are entitled to. If you're finished justifying your existence, write this now. I don't explain myself. Number 3. Develop emotional non-reactivity. Confidence is often measured by what you do, but the deepest confidence is measured by what you don't do, what you don't react to, what you don't internalize, what you don't need to respond to. Dangerously confident people have cultivated something rare, emotional non-reactivity, the ability to witness provocation, criticism, chaos or tension and not be hijacked by it. This is not suppression. This is not detachment. This is sovereignty. The Stoics called this apatheia, not apathy, but freedom from being controlled by external events. The Buddhist tradition calls it equanimity. Modern psychology calls it emotional regulation. Whatever you call it, it's power. Most people are reactive. Someone criticizes them, they defend. Someone challenges them, they fight. Someone withdraws, they chase. Someone attacks, they collapse. Their emotions are a puppet, and the world holds the strings. Confident people sever those strings. Psychiatrist Viktor Frankl, survivor of Nazi concentration camps, wrote, "Between stimulus and response there is a space. In that space is our power to choose our response. In our response lies our growth and our freedom. That space, that pause, is where confidence lives. When someone provokes you and you don't react, you demonstrate mastery. Not mastery over them, mastery over yourself. You show that their emotional state doesn't dictate yours, that their chaos doesn't penetrate your calm. This changes everything. Think about people who unsettle you. Chances are they're highly reactive. You never know which version of them you're getting. They're mood-dependent, weather-dependent, dependent on how their last interaction went. Now think about people who ground you. They're consistent, steady. They don't swing wildly based on circumstances. You trust them because their emotional state is internally regulated, not externally controlled. You can become this. Non-reactivity is a practice, not a personality trait. It's built through repetition, through choosing, again and again, not to be moved by things that used to move you. The neuroscientist Lisa Feldman Barrett's research on emotion construction shows that emotions aren't automatic responses to external events. They're predictions your brain makes based on past patterns. This means you can retrain your predictive patterns. You can teach your nervous system new responses. Every time you pause instead of react, you're rewiring. Every time you breathe instead of respond immediately, you're creating new neural pathways. Every time you stay calm when provoked, you're building emotional sovereignty. Here's how to build it. When someone criticizes you, don't defend, don't explain, don't counterattack. Simply say, "I'll consider that." Then actually consider it later when you're calm. If it's valid, integrate it. If it's not, discard it. Either way, you weren't controlled by it. Notice what happens in your body when you receive criticism. There's likely a tightening, a surge of heat, an impulse to defend immediately. This is your nervous system's old pattern. Don't obey it. Breathe. Let the wave pass. Then respond from center, not from reaction. When someone tries to provoke you, don't take the bait. Recognize provocation for what it is, an attempt to transfer their dysregulation to you. You don't have to accept the transfer. Stay calm, stay slow. Watch them exhaust themselves. Provocateurs are looking for a reaction. They feed on your emotional response. When you don't provide it, they lose power. Your calm becomes destabilizing to their chaos. When something doesn't go as planned, don't spiral, don't catastrophize. Don't create narratives about what this means about you or your future. Simply acknowledge, this didn't go as planned. What's the next move? Stay in problem solving, not panic. The distinction here is crucial. Panic is your nervous system reacting as if the situation is life-threatening. Problem solving is your prefrontal cortex engaging rationally. You can train yourself to shift from one to the other. When you feel triggered, don't act immediately. Create space. Go for a walk. Wait 24 hours before responding. Let the emotional wave pass. You'll often find that what felt urgent in the moment wasn't urgent at all. Triggers are old wounds being activated. When you're triggered, you're not responding to the present, you're responding to the past. Creating space allows you to distinguish between the two. When someone is angry with you, don't match their energy. Don't escalate. Don't defend. Stay grounded. Let them express. Listen without absorbing. Their anger is information, not an attack you need to fend off. This is especially powerful because it breaks the cycle of escalation. Most conflicts intensify because both parties keep raising the emotional stakes. When you refuse to escalate, the interaction has nowhere to go but down. The practice is simple. Lengthen the space between stimulus and response. At first, the space might be half a second, then 2 seconds, then 10. Eventually, you'll find yourself able to sit with intense discomfort without needing to discharge it. This is dangerous confidence because you become unpredictable in the best way. People can't manipulate you through emotion. They can't bait you into reactions that weaken you. They can't control your state. Your calm becomes unshakable, not because nothing affects you, but because you've learned to let things move through you without derailing you. Consider the person in a meeting who doesn't flinch when challenged, who doesn't rush to defend their idea when questioned, who listens fully before responding. This person radiates authority, not through aggression, but through stability. Or the person in a conflict who doesn't raise their voice, who doesn't match the other's intensity, who stays present and calm while chaos swirls around them. This person becomes the center of gravity in the room. This is what emotional non-reactivity creates. You become the still point around which everything else revolves. If pressure used to break you but doesn't anymore, claim this: calm under pressure. Number 4, reclaim your attention from external validation. You have a finite amount of attention. Every day you wake up with a budget. Where you spend that attention determines the quality of your life and the depth of your confidence. Right now, most of your attention is hemorrhaging outward. You're spending it on checking how your post performed, wondering what they meant by that comment, replaying that conversation, imagining what people think of you, monitoring your image, comparing yourself, seeking signs of approval. This is not living, this is auditing. Dangerously confident people have pulled their attention back from the external validation market. They've stopped trading their presence for approval. They've stopped checking the scoreboard. Psychologist Mihaly Csikszentmihalyi studied flow states, moments of deep engagement where people lose track of time and self-consciousness. He found that these states are impossible when you're self-monitoring. You cannot be in flow and in judgment simultaneously. Confidence exists in the same territory. When your attention is externalized, focused on how you're being perceived, you fragment. Part of you is doing the thing. Part of you is watching yourself do the thing. Part of you is imagining how others are watching you do the thing. This fragmentation is why social media is so exhausting. You're not just living, you're curating, documenting, performing, checking. The result is a life that feels like a dress rehearsal, never the actual show. The shift begins when you ask a different question. Instead of, what will they think? Ask, what do I actually want here? Instead of, how am I being perceived? Ask, am I being honest? Instead of, did this get enough likes? Ask, did this feel true? This reorientation pulls your attention back to center. And when your attention returns, your energy returns, your presence returns, your confidence returns. Because confidence is not something you project outward, it's something you experience inward. Start this practice immediately. Notice when you're seeking validation. Don't judge it, just notice. I'm checking my phone to see if they responded. I'm seeking validation. The noticing itself begins to weaken the pattern. Set validation-free zones. Certain times, certain activities where you do not check, monitor, or measure external response. You just do the thing for the thing itself. Practice non-broadcasting. Do things without telling anyone. Let experiences be complete in themselves without needing to be witnessed or validated. Delay checking. If you post something, don't look at responses for 24 hours. Break the immediate feedback loop that keeps you externalized. This is uncomfortable because you've been conditioned to seek external validation as primary feedback. But that conditioning is exactly what's keeping you from confidence. Real confidence is internal validation. The ability to know, without external confirmation, that you're on the right path, that your choices are aligned, that your presence matters. You don't need the crowd's applause to know you did something well. You don't need universal agreement to know you're right. You don't need likes to know you're valuable. The moment you reclaim your attention from external validation, you reclaim your life. You stop living in reaction to feedback loops. You start living from your center. And that center, that grounded, internally validated presence, is dangerously confident. If you're choosing self-respect over approval today, prove it. I choose myself. Number 5. Understand that confidence is built through micro-decisions. Most people are waiting for the big moment, the promotion, the opportunity, the relationship, the breakthrough. They think confidence will arrive when external circumstances change. It won't. Confidence is not a destination you reach when conditions are right. It's a muscle you build through thousands of small decisions that align with who you're becoming. Every micro-decision is a vote for the person you're becoming or the person you're leaving behind. You hit snooze or you get up, vote. You speak your truth or you stay quiet, vote. You honor your boundary or you collapse, vote. You follow through or you make excuses, vote. Confidence is the aggregate of these votes. Behavioral scientist B.J. Fogg's research on habit formation shows that tiny behaviors, when consistent, create identity-level change more effectively than dramatic overhauls. Not because tiny behaviors are inherently powerful, but because they're sustainable. You can't maintain heroic effort, but you can maintain micro-integrity. Think about confidence as trust. Trust between your present self and your future self. Every time you do what you said you'd do, trust increases. Every time you betray that commitment, trust erodes. This happens invisibly. No one sees these micro-betrayals. No one knows you said you'd work on that project and scrolled instead. No one knows you promised yourself you'd speak up and stayed silent. But you know, and your nervous system knows. Each betrayal registers as, I can't trust myself. Each integrity register as, I am reliable. Dangerously confident people are built on micro-integrity. They make small promises and keep them, not for performance, not for others, for themselves. Here's how to build this. Make promises you can keep. Don't commit to running a marathon if you don't run. Commit to putting on running shoes 3 times this week. Lower the threshold. Raise the consistency. Track completion, not perfection. Did you do what you said you'd do? That's the only metric. It doesn't need to be done well. It needs to be done. Celebrate micro wins. Your brain needs evidence that following through matters. When you keep a small promise, acknowledge it. I said I'd write for 10 minutes. I did. That's integrity. Address micro-betrayals immediately. When you don't follow through, don't spiral into shame. Just reset. I didn't do what I said. What's the smallest version of this I can do right now? Then do it. Over time, something shifts. You stop doubting whether you'll show up. You develop a quiet certainty, not because life got easier, but because you became more reliable to yourself. This is confidence, not the confidence of someone who never fails, but the confidence of someone who knows they'll show up regardless. People can feel this quality. They sense that you're not someone who talks about things. You're someone who does things, even small things, consistently. That consistency becomes your signature, and when big opportunities arise, when the moment comes that requires confidence, you don't question whether you have it. You know you do, because you've been building it in private through thousands of small moments no one else saw. Confidence is not found, it's forged. In the daily, unglamorous, unsexy micro-decisions that no one applauds. If you're done begging to be liked, stamp this in the comments. I don't need approval. Number 6. Stop defending your reality. One of the most exhausting confidence leaks is the constant need to defend your reality, your choices, your boundaries, your perspective, your experience. When someone questions you, you immediately mount a defense. You gather evidence, you build arguments, you try to make them see what you see. This is not confidence. This is seeking permission to exist as you are. Dangerously confident people have stopped defending their reality, not because they don't care what others think, but because they understand something fundamental. Your reality doesn't require consensus. Think about how much energy you spend trying to justify your experience. Someone says you're overreacting, you explain why you're not. Someone says you're making a mistake, you defend your logic. Someone questions your choice, you build a case. Each defense is an implicit admission. I need you to agree with me for this to be valid. But you don't. The philosopher Ludwig Wittgenstein explored how language creates reality, how the words we use shape what's possible to think. When you constantly defend your reality, you're negotiating its existence. You're suggesting it's optional, dependent on others' acceptance. Confident people state their reality and let it stand. They don't need everyone to understand. They don't need universal validation. They know that their experience is their authority. This doesn't mean being rigid or unteachable. It means being self-authored. You remain open to new information without needing others to validate your current position. Practice this shift. When someone disagrees with your choice, don't defend. Simply say, I understand you see it differently. This is what I'm doing. When someone questions your boundary, don't justify. Simply say, this is what works for me. When someone invalidates your experience, don't argue. Simply say, I hear that you see it differently. My experience was different. Notice the pattern. You acknowledge their perspective without absorbing it. You state your reality without needing their agreement. At first, this feels vulnerable. You're not protecting yourself with explanations. You're standing exposed in your truth, allowing others to disagree. But something powerful happens when you stop defending. You discover that your reality doesn't collapse when challenged. It remains. Your experience doesn't disappear because someone questions it. It's still there. This builds profound confidence, the confidence of someone who knows that their inner experience is valid regardless of external confirmation. And paradoxically, when you stop defending, people often start understanding. Not always, not everyone, but more than before. Why? Because defense creates resistance. When you're defending, others feel compelled to attack. When you simply state and exist, there's nothing to push against. Your reality becomes like water. It doesn't argue with rocks, it simply flows around them. This is dangerous confidence. The confidence of someone who doesn't need permission to experience what they experience, who doesn't need consensus to know what they know, who doesn't need validation to proceed as they are. If you're rebuilding trust with yourself, lock this in. I keep my word. Number 7. Embrace strategic invisibility. Confidence culture has sold you a lie, that confidence means always being seen, always speaking up, always taking space, always making your presence known. But this is performance, not confidence. Dangerously confident people understand the power of strategic invisibility, the ability to choose when to be seen and when to observe, to speak when it serves and to be silent when it doesn't. This is not hiding, this is discernment. Most people speak to fill space, to prove they have something to contribute, to avoid the discomfort of being unnoticed. Their words are motivated by anxiety, not intention. Confident people speak when their words add value and remain silent when they don't. They're comfortable being in rooms without performing. They can sit through meetings without proving anything. They can let conversations unfold without inserting themselves. This creates a different kind of power. When you're not constantly visible, your presence becomes more valuable. When you don't speak, unless you have something meaningful to say, your words carry more weight. The psychologist Carl Rogers talked about unconditional positive regard, the ability to witness without judgment. Confident people extend this to themselves. They don't judge their silence as inadequacy. They don't measure their value by how often they're noticed. They're complete, whether seen or unseen. This shift is particularly important in a culture that equates visibility with value. Social media has taught you that if you're not constantly broadcasting, you don't exist. That if you're not accumulating attention, you're failing. This is false economy. Real confidence includes the ability to disappear, to work privately, to build without announcing, to exist without constant validation of that existence. Practice this. In meetings, speak only when you have something that changes the conversation, not to prove you're engaged, not to be seen, only when your contribution moves things forward. On social media, take breaks from broadcasting. Let periods of time pass where you're living without documenting, where you're building without sharing. In social situations, practice comfortable silence. You don't need to fill every pause. You don't need to entertain. You can exist quietly and completely. Work on projects without announcing them. Build things that might never be seen. Create value that doesn't require an audience. What happens when you embrace strategic invisibility? You stop living in performance mode. You stop measuring yourself by attention metrics. You start drawing value from internal sources, your own satisfaction, your own standards, your own sense of purpose. And when you do choose to be visible, it's intentional, it's purposeful, it's from overflow, not depletion. People notice this quality. They sense that you're not trying to be seen, that your presence isn't needy, that you're complete whether they notice you or not. This is dangerous confidence, the confidence of someone who doesn't require an audience to know they matter. Dangerous confidence is not constructed, it's excavated. Everything we've explored, stopping the performance of certainty, mastering boundaries, developing emotional non-reactivity, reclaiming attention from validation, building confidence through micro-decisions, refusing to defend your reality, embracing strategic invisibility. These aren't additions to who you are, they're removals. Removal of performance, removal of people-pleasing, removal of chronic self-monitoring, removal of validation-seeking, removal of defense mechanisms, removal of unnecessary explanation, removal of reactive patterns. What remains when these are removed is who you've always been beneath the conditioning: calm, clear, grounded, sovereign, complete. This work is not fast. Cultural conditioning doesn't unravel in 40 minutes. The patterns you've carried for years, the automatic flinch, the instant explanation, the need for approval, these don't dissolve immediately. But awareness begins here. Choice begins here. The first step of return begins here. You're not becoming dangerously confident. You're remembering it. The confidence of the child who hadn't learned to shrink yet. The confidence of the person who hadn't started negotiating their worth yet. The confidence of the human who existed before the world taught them to be small. That version of you is not gone. It's buried. And every principle in this video is an excavation tool. Each time you stop explaining yourself, excavation. Each time you hold a boundary without apologizing, excavation. Each time you stay calm when provoked, excavation. Each time you choose self-respect over approval, excavation. Each time you keep a promise to yourself, excavation. Each time you let your reality stand without consensus, excavation. Each time you exist without needing to be seen, excavation. Layer by layer, you're uncovering what was always there. The philosopher Michelangelo described his sculpture process this way: the sculpture is already complete within the marble block before I start my work. It is already there. I just have to chisel away the superfluous material. This is what you're doing. The confident you is already complete. You're just chiseling away the superfluous material, the fear, the performance, the chronic self-betrayal. Now here's what matters most. What happens after this video ends? Because insight without action is just entertainment. Understanding without practice is just information. Awareness without change is just knowing you're stuck. The difference between someone who watches this and forgets it by tomorrow and someone who transforms is simple: repetition. Confidence is not a moment of clarity. It's 1,000 small moments where you choose differently. One moment where you don't explain. One moment where you enforce your boundary. One moment where you don't react. One moment where you don't seek validation. One moment where you keep your word. One moment where you let misunderstanding exist. One moment where you stay present without performing. These moments accumulate, they build, they compound. And 6 months from now, you won't recognize the person you were today, not because you became someone else, but because you finally became yourself fully. The people in your life will notice. They won't necessarily understand what changed. They'll just sense something different, something solid, something they can't shake or manipulate or guilt. Some will appreciate it. They'll treat you with more respect. They'll match your energy. They'll show up differently. Others will resist it. They'll test your boundaries. They'll provoke you. They'll tell you you've changed, and they won't mean it positively. Both responses are information, not instruction. Let them respond however they respond. Your job is not to control their reaction. Your job is to remain grounded in your truth. This is the final layer of dangerous confidence, unwavering self-trust in the face of external turbulence. You know who you are. You know what you stand for. You know what you will and won't tolerate. You know what you need. And you honor all of it, regardless of who agrees. This is not arrogance. Arrogance needs to prove itself. Arrogance performs. Arrogance seeks validation through dominance. This is quiet, unshakable self-knowledge, the kind that doesn't need to announce itself, the kind that doesn't need to convince anyone, the kind that simply is. Carry this forward into every interaction, into the meeting where you used to shrink, stand full size, into the relationship where you used to over-explain, speak once and stop, into the conflict where you used to collapse, stay grounded, into the moment where you used to seek approval, choose self-respect, into the commitment where you used to flake, follow through, Into the misunderstanding where you used to defend. Let it be. Into the room where you used to perform. Just exist. This is how confidence becomes your default, not your exception. And remember, this is not about being perfect. It's about being whole. You'll still have moments where you over-explain, where your boundary wobbles, where you react instead of respond, where you seek validation, where you break a promise to yourself, where you defend unnecessarily, where you perform instead of being present. This is human. The difference is you'll notice it faster, you'll correct it quicker, you'll return to center with less drama. That's growth, not never falling, but falling less frequently and recovering more rapidly. If this message served you, serve it forward. Like this video, share it with someone who's been quietly eroding, someone whose confidence has been leaking for years, someone who needs to remember they're allowed to take up space. Subscribe for continued guidance on building a grounded, sovereign life, because this conversation doesn't end here. This is foundational work, but there's more. More on maintaining confidence in toxic environments, more on rebuilding after it's been shattered, more on teaching these principles to the next generation, more on integrating confidence with compassion, because dangerous confidence is not cold confidence. This channel exists to support your continuous return to self, and if you feel stronger than you did 40 minutes ago, seal it. Unshakable confidence. You're not becoming someone else. You're finally standing as yourself, fully, unapologetically, dangerously. The version of you that doesn't shrink, the version of you that doesn't perform, the version of you that doesn't apologize for existing. That version has always been here. Welcome home.